Yes, Sir Hairless here. Today we have Dimash performing Mademoiselle Hyde from the New Wave 2019 Sochi concert. Yesterday I released a video. It was my reaction to Lara Fabian's 2016 performance of this song. I talk about the song and the arrangement, the composition musically at its core, why it's written in such a way. I guess we'll see how similar or different Dimash's version is. But I may not want to repeat some of the information I put in yesterday's video, so please do watch that reaction video if you haven't already. The card for that will be up here. Mademoiselle Hyde, a song written by Lara Fabian and Igor Krutoy, even though at the end of her performance she wholly credited Igor.
Extraordinary song by Mr. Igor Krutoy.
I loved it. I think it's a great song, especially the various harmonic progressions, chord changes that we see at different sections of the song. Lara's performance was great. She, like Dimash, has an unbelievable stage presence. I think she did a brilliant job at portraying two different personalities. She took a kind of calm versus manic approach, polar opposites. And just to repeat what I said in the introduction to my Lara video yesterday, the name Hyde immediately makes us think of the strange case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. So let's get straight into this one, see what Dimash does. Okay, I see he's changed Mademoiselle Hyde to Mr. Hyde. I wonder if at the end, when the lyrics are now you are Mr. Hyde, if he'll make that now you are Mrs. or Mademoiselle Hyde. Alright, now this is interesting. I have a lot to talk about with this one, I think. So, first things first. Dimash is singing in the same key as Lara, but that's because the arrangements are completely identical. I've not heard a single difference between the two in terms of instrumentation, harmonic progressions, anything like that. By the way, if you don't want to hear me talk through the analysis, go to the timestamp here. So, because the arrangements are identical, I will have to repeat some of the things I said about the music in my Lara Fabian video to make sure that that information is in this video as well. Apologies if you hear these bits twice, but I guess you'll remember them better. Because of this means the only differences we have between the two performances are in the vocal lines, in the melody. With these videos where I do two different interpretations or versions of the same song by different artists, I'd just like to highlight that this is not a comparison to see which version is better. That's all opinion. I just point out what is different, and then I give my thoughts on why I think the artist has chosen to do this. So any references I make to Lara's performance of the same song will just be to highlight a point that I'm making. So back to the opening chord progression, very, very nice. Because it's the same arrangement, I'm going to have to say the same thing I said in the Lara version. So I'm going to include a clip of that where I explain what we hear in the backing instrumentation. So the chords we hear are E minor, B minor, G7, F sharp 7, which sounds like this. I'll play them all close together. The last chord though is peculiar because in the oboe we hear this, and then immediately afterwards, down the octave, we hear. And that lower line is outlining a C chord. And I was saying how it makes me think, well, which is it? It's quite strange, just as the story of the music, the strange case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. We are wondering which version of this person we're getting. And this is all before Dimash enters, so Dimash's job is to portray these conflicting mentalities throughout the song. Now, we can't see Dimash here, so I don't know what his facial expressions are, portraying, building up this character before the singing. In the Lara video, they showed her. Before she starts singing, we get this smile from her. Considering the subject matter of the song, it's very beguiling. And we even hear like a sparkle sound effect, like you get in cartoons when someone has a smile and it's their teeth glistening. And then we get Dimash's entry. He opts for a vocal style that is almost contrasting in itself. We can think of it as multiple very short phrases, almost like each note is its own phrase. His treatment of each note does vary. We get vibrato versus no vibrato, accented or disjointed versus unaccented, legato, smooth. And he's using this blended voice, but it's much more predominantly head voice versus chest voice. There's a fair bit of air in the sound as well. It creates this kind of purer, more innocent sound. Then we get this phrase. Listen to the two longest note that he sings. See how he uses no vibrato? If we compare it to the two longest notes of the previous phrase, the words guide and through, he uses a very noticeable vibrato. And it's at this point where he says torn in two, where we get a duality in the instruments as well. The violins come in with a counter melody. It's contrasting or working against the accented chords that we hear in the rest of the instrumentation that are really the driving force behind the music. Also, it adds some textural variety as well as rhythmic variety. I like how Dimash sings Dr. Jekyll. He chooses to use an obvious hemiola. What this means is that he's changing the rhythms of these notes. He's making them slightly longer so that 3 of his notes are the same overall length as 4 normal notes. Because his notes now are slightly longer, he has to enter the phrase earlier. If we compare to how Lara performed it, we'll see that she enters after 1 whole beat. 1. Whereas Dimash comes in a bit earlier. 1. I feel that his choice to do this gives the performance a slightly more of an eerie feel. I think it's a good choice. Now this line's interesting, the lyrics have changed from Lara's version. Lara said, though I can be from hell or the Moulin Rouge. But Dimash says, whichever one you pick, you will still lose. In my video yesterday, I said that it seems like a lose-lose whatever happens. It sounds like it's a lose-lose situation for the listener, for the recipient of this song, either way. So Dimash singing these words, yeah, I find it quite funny. The music then changes for the next bit. We get a new section where we hear this note. This F sharp repeated in the bass is the standout feature because it does not move. For the whole verse, I mean, there's not that much harmonic movement elsewhere. So the main moving feature is Dimash's melody. There's even more focus on his melody. He did a little trill on me, just as Lara did. But unlike Lara, who comes off the word you, you'll be cursed, she goes. Dimash really sings into it. He emphasizes it. You will be cursed. It's a directive. And then at the end of this section, just before my favourite part of the whole song, Dimash chooses to descend. This is almost like a foreshadowing of the luscious melody that's to come. Remember this idea of descending, falling. And then we get this bit, my favourite part. He handles it so delicately, the amount of air he's using, and he uses more air the higher it gets. You know, we can barely even hear the note up there. It truly sounds like a broken person singing, saying, please don't come near me. And the violins as well. In yesterday's video I said they sound like an anguished cry. They completely contrast Dimash's voice. Dimash's voice, airy, broken, but the violins, they're a strong sound. There's no uncertainty about them. Dimash's airy voice gives the impression of weakness, not a sign of strength. So this phrase, burn you alive, Dimash does sing the exact same melody as Lara, but the obvious difference is Dimash has a disjointed you. Notice now how when he sings the word you, it's disjointed, whereas earlier he was singing into it. Okay, so onto the melody of that part itself. In my Lara reaction, that was my first time hearing the melody. I expected something different to happen. I've heard the melody before, so I'm not going to mention that in this video. What I will repeat is two things. One, the second phrase. Now, that rising interval, a minor sixth. I've said many times before, the sixth is my favourite interval, obviously depending on musical context. The context here is sad, so it's the minor version. It's heartbreaking. And number two, we have this descending section. Earlier I said to remember this idea of falling, of descending. Well, now we have it in the most emotional part of the song. Falling, it's often associated with weakness or sadness, and it's the opposite of what we heard earlier, that section with the F sharp, where everything was static except for Dimash, who was rising. It's the music here at this moment that really enables Dimash's melody to just come down in a stepwise fashion. He does so in couplets, 2 notes and then a break, then another 2 notes and then a break. The music underneath is going round something called a circle of fifths. All this is a pattern of chords that you can move through and it will sound lovely like it does here. It's the bass line that really gives it away. Let's listen to it again, and I'll put a graphic on the screen showing how we're moving around the circle of fifths with the music. So there are 6 notes there, and you'll notice that the last 2 skipped across the circle. That's because we needed to return to the beginning. So instead of having the 2 notes C and F, they were each moved up by 1 note to give us C sharp and F sharp. This line really caught my attention. I've regretted. Dimash sings regretted with a hard T. Lara didn't do that. She used a soft T, like regretted. I'm not sure what I think about this difference. It's funny how Dimash starts physically moving on this line as well. And those highest notes, he was saying, I hate it. Suddenly, it was in a rather operatic voice. No longer this blended voice, but then he immediately goes back to the airy voice for the words, I am Mr. Hyde. This is where we pause, so let's now continue to the end.
I find that I
Bravo!
Bravo indeed. Wow, that's interesting. He did some changes there, or some significant ones. Great, I mean, yeah, a nice little showcase for him there towards the end. I just really like this song. I just really like it. All right, let's go over that second half a little bit. So just from where we continued, the choir enters. And a bit later, one note at a time for now. Later they sing more. I see the choir as like one collective human voice. Dimash's voice is another. It's kind of like having one person, two minds. Jekyll, Hyde. And he's gone back to using his fuller voice again. Before he was using the airy voice. In a phrase afterwards, let's listen to how he treats those long notes again. They're treated differently. The first two notes had no vibrato. The very first note was a weaker sound in general. The last word, beast, probably the most impactful word of that phrase, that's the one Dimash chooses to use the vibrato on. And his exit off of the word beast is great too. He has this kind of voice crack. It's quite beast-like. I think he's showing us here that he cannot escape being Mr. Hyde. He's the beast out of the two, out of Jekyll and Hyde. A bit later on, when Dimash sings the word surrender, this is the strongest note of the phrase. The previous notes he slides off, no vibrato. It's a strong sound on surrender, which seems counterintuitive. A strong sound is kind of the opposite of what he's saying, I'm ready to surrender. So then we get this lovely melody again, but this time Dimash is going for just power. A rawer sound, blended voice. This is that voice we so often see him use in more aggrieved moments of music, like he's in pain. Unlike the airy blended voice that he was using earlier for this part, this blend is using much more of his chest voice. The top note that he's singing is this D up here, which is one note above. So he's singing more powerfully now. And interestingly, this time when he sings the word regretted, he uses a soft T, regretted, unlike we heard earlier. A bit later on, though we can't see Dimash, it looks like he turns his back to the audience when he's no longer singing. Lara did the same thing. This is the other musician's time to shine. Whilst the turning around could be seen as acting in character, it's also a mark of respect to the other musicians. The audience must now focus their attention on everyone else. When Dimash re-enters, it's an even more pained, even more broken sounding airy voice. Basically a whisper. There's barely any audible note to it. And then he goes straight into the opposite, a powerful version. But this time round, he jumps up the octave. I also find this funny because, well, this is what I expected. Let me show you a clip of what I said yesterday. So the second phrase, the words, don't touch my skin. I was expecting her to go, and then maybe back down. This octave jump, leading into a climax. 3 phrases seemed like a natural thing to do. It's just what the music is naturally building up to, I guess. And it's not so surprising to hear Dimash do this. We know he has the range for it. And then, in true Dimash style, he returns to that top F sharp to finish. He chose that with a blended voice rather than singing the same note Lara did, which he could have done in a chest voice. He's ending on this impression again of mental pain. Alright, there was a lot to say about that one. Very, very nice song. Thank you to everyone who recommended this song, both on my Lara videos and Dimash videos. I really, really like it. It's a little bit of a shame that it was the exact same arrangement, that there were no differences musically at all other than in the melody, but it's also a positive because it means that all the changes we're looking for are just in Dimash's interpretation versus Lara's. As always, thank you very much for watching. Would appreciate a like and subscribe. If you enjoy my content, want to support me and vote on future polls, you can do so by joining the YouTube memberships or Patrons, link in the description below, and I will see you next time.